Hello and welcome to Burst on the Scene, episode 5 of me, Joel Valentin.
And me, Lewis Williams, and joined with us today is an ex-teammate of yours, Jolie.
We are Kyran Lofthouse, currently playing for Barnsley on loan at MK Dons in League 2. Had a really interesting career. Some interesting decisions that he's had to make on the way. Unique journey. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, too right. And it's probably the first footballer I've ever heard of who's managed to make it into the pro game, who's left an academy of their own decision and taken a couple of years out to go back in.
Yeah, I mean, brave decision at such a young age as well. He's only 13, 14. But you won't give much away with the reasonings that he chose. But yeah, brave decision and one that it hasn't stopped him at all. He's flying at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. And in terms of sort of guests to keep an eye on this season, especially with how strong MK Dons are as a team, where he could potentially slot into that side, it's an exciting guest to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, FA Cup weekend, Lou, didn't quite go your way, did it?
Well, I think you're really down and out about this, Joel, but you've got to remember they are 72 places above us in the football pyramid. And
I know.
we had them at 2-2. And for some reason, you're all sort of elitist now that you're in the Premier League. For whatever reason.
We're beating teams.
Yeah, but so have we. I mean, we beat Leicester just after they'd won the Premier League. So again, I'm not entirely sure of the point you're trying to make here, Joel, but we had Man United at 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason is you got so close. I'm not saying in a way it didn't go your way. That's why I said it. It didn't go your way. You didn't win the game. That's why I said it didn't go your way. You had an incredible game. Very proud. I wanted you to win. Me and Co were watching. Really wanted you to win. But it didn't go your way. So it didn't go through.
Yeah, just like when you conceded that last-minute goal against Arsenal, it just didn't quite go your way, did it? So it's
we didn't, but we're in the Premier League, and you're rotting away in League 2,
yeah.
so it's all right. Anyway, we've got a little special treat for you. We've come up with our favourite players to burst onto the scene. So, Lou, do you want to say yours first? You go first.
Yeah,
mate.
well, this after the discussion we just had, this is even more apt. So my favourite burst on the scene player ever is actually Ollie McBurney, who on his debut scored a hat trick against Luton, and I believe you were there that day. Didn't you get quite wet?
It was quite wet. Obviously, Newport, really good stadium. Just a shame that it has nothing above you in the away end. So yeah, it was a cold, wet, rainy day in Newport, and Ollie McBurney scored a hat trick. But yeah, still living off 20, probably 2000s, whatever it was. But anyway, he's been taking his time to make it into the Prem, all his loan moves. So it's not a bad decision there for him.
Yeah, sorry, you were stuttering a little bit there, but no. So I mean, like when he came onto the scene, he scored that hat trick initially. Obviously, that was great, and then since then he's kicked on and made it into the Prem, which is a rarity for most League 2 players. So as players go, yeah, he definitely burst on the scene in that game.
Yeah, I mean Newport have had some good players. If you make a team of ex-Newport players, you've got Ben White, Finn Azaz. Who else have you got? You probably know more than me.
Scott Twine, who's just gone to Bristol City. John Aldridge, Liverpool legend back in the day. Who else have we got? Sheezy, yeah. To be fair, I think at the moment as well, Kyran Lofthouse. He came on the other night, 18.
Came on, didn't he? Came on, and he had a couple of nice touches. He was throwing himself into it, which fair play to him. This is one of his only ever starts for Newport or appearances for Newport, and he didn't look like he was out of place.
He's going to burst on the scene next year. I think next season is his year. But
yeah, we'll get him on. He'll be there.
Who's your player, Jolie?
My player is Luton striker Elijah Adebayo.
Is he academy
and
player?
That is because Elijah Adebayo, we signed him from Walsall, so he scored good amount of goals for Warsaw. We signed him in January 2021. Came on to the scene, sort of took his time to get into it, scored quite a few goals in the first half season, and then next he just properly burst onto the scene. I think he got 15 to 20 goals as we got into the playoffs after just being a mid-table
Who's
team,
better,
and
him or
then got into
Morris?
the playoffs, and then also this season,
Ooh.
Adebayo. Just. I mean, this season he's gone ahead of him. Morris started it. Morris was playing at the start. Adebayo is the striker. I mean, they both might get a chance now, but he's really found his feet in the Prem. He's got 5 or 6 goals at least already. So he's my player, and I can't wait for him to score more and keep going into the Prem.
Excellent. Well, I think it's about time we got the guest in. Hope you all enjoy, everybody. This is Kyran Lofthouse.
Let's get him in. Right, Kyran Lofthouse. Cheers for coming on, mate. Big
Welcome.
move. Just moved down to MK on loan. Are you excited about that? What was your thought behind that?
Yeah, it's been it's kind of come up a few weeks ago now. I was at Gateshead and I worked with the manager as well there. So obviously I knew that they'd gone down to MK Don. So when they approached me, it was a bit of a no-brainer. So looking forward to it and hopefully have a good second half of the season. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, like you said, you followed Mike Williamson, isn't it? The manager.
Yeah.
You followed him down. Was how much of an attraction, a pull was that? How much of an impact did he have?
Oh, definitely, like massive. Obviously, I worked with him and the assistant Ian at Gateshead just recently. So I know what they're about, and I know the style they want to implement, and it probably got the best out of me for probably in my career so far. So for the chance to go back, and it's a good club, and you know, I was kind of I was sold.
Yeah. What's it like sort of going into a team that's obviously looking to get promotion? Is there a bit more sort of, I don't know, nervousness sort of going into that club, knowing the level of expectation?
I'm not sure I'd say nervousness. I think it's exciting. I mean, you want to be playing for something. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be kind of filtering around the middle and there's not that much to play for. You'd rather be playing for promotion. So I'm quite excited about the idea that, you know, they've been doing quite well. So hopefully they can just keep building, and you know, if I do well for them, then everyone does well. So yeah.
Absolutely. So just sort of going back to right at the start of your sort of footballing journey, what were your very like early influences in terms of getting into football?
I don't know really. I think I just liked kicking a ball about, to be honest, when I was young, and then I just happened to be decent when I was like 5.
Natural talent.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how you really work it out at 5, but clearly you can. But and then I went to Reading at quite a young age, so I was kind of in it from young, about under 8s. I think I joined there, and then I think that was mainly the start. But I'd always been in quite like a more of a serious like environment from even like a really young age. But yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, because I think like as like time went on, it showed like that might have been a bit too much for me, like at such a young age. But yeah, that's kind of where it started at Reading. That's where
We say under 8. It's young, isn't it? As an 8-year-old to play for an academy. We've just think when we've talked, would you not rather be playing with your mates whilst playing for the club as well, but not just solely playing for an academy and being able to have that sort of relaxed sort of playing with your mates as well?
Yeah, I think, you know what, like, and you'd know as well, like when you're that age and you're going like 4 times a week and you're training like so in like religiously, you don't have a lot of time when you're young especially when you're growing up to do kind of anything else. You have to miss a lot, even like at a young age. I remember it used to annoy me a bit because people would be doing things and I would feel like I'm missing out. But but yeah, I think at a young age it can work both ways. It is good. At the end of the day, I wouldn't say like I wouldn't have done it, because I think it does give you a good platform. In terms of being a footballer, but I think it can be a bit much. Maybe at 8, maybe 8's a bit young.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was the start really.
Yeah. What do you remember from Reading? You'll see there when you were up there till like 14, was it? When you left, what were your memories there? Obviously, from what I remember, you was always sort of playing up for a lot when you were younger. Sort of one of the better players in the age group. Was that something that has helped you since then?
Yeah, I mean, that age, there was a point I was about kind of 11, 12, and now I look back, it's funny because I think it's hard to like, you can't really work out like who's going to be that good at that age or who's going to go on. But yeah, I did remember I used to play up a bit. I think I got to the age of 14, which is where I decided to leave like myself off my own accord, because because I wasn't really enjoying it anymore, like at all. Like I kind of lost like a bit of like the kind of the love for it. I think maybe, and that's why I go back to being in it at such a young age is probably what didn't help. I remember being, I was doing quite well up to a point, and then I was smaller than like a lot of people by the end, and I had a few like growth like injuries, like the knees and that started, and I just remember thinking like, this is just getting a bit too much for me. Like it's a bit too much. So yeah, that my memories obviously of there. It was good, and it was good to be training in that environment. But I think it did get to a point where it probably did get a bit much, which is why I decided to kind of like literally come out of it fully.
Yeah.
After I left for a good couple of years, so
it's quite.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's not very often you hear footballers deliberately choose to come out of the academy setup by choice, so that is different. So you said you sort of spent a couple of years out. What were you sort of doing throughout those years, and then what ultimately led you to go back into football again?
So obviously I would still play. I was playing like Sunday football with my mates from around 14 to 16. We had a little team, like my mates made one. Everyone was like pretty decent. So like we do well in that. And I'd probably say that it probably helped me find the enjoyment back in it, because I'd play football, but then same time I remember I was even like played basketball a bit. Like I was even thinking like, would I rather do that? I remember honestly thinking at that point.
Yeah.
But I think what happened is it got to a couple of years of playing just like with my mates. And then as we got to more 15, 16, people then decide they don't want to do it anymore. We're going to games and that. Half the team's not turning up. We're playing with 9 players because people have been doing whatever the night before and that. Like, so I think it got to a point where I was like, okay, do you know what? Like, now I've had the little time out. It probably motivated me to take it more seriously. And luckily I managed to reach out to Oxford United. One of my mates was playing there as an under 16 from school, and I remember I used to drop it into him like, go on, have a word then. Like, would they look at me? Like, I'll come in for a bit. Like, didn't think much of it. And then I sent them emails. I still got them as well to this day. I swear on my phone, I still got them from when I was 16. Emailed the head of academy or whatever at the time. Didn't even know who he was. And I'm saying, yeah, come on, like, take me on trial. This is my CV and that. Like, I've been here or whatever. But that was funny. So it's funny. I look back at them and laugh. To be fair.
And then obviously we're quite brave to do that. Was that all on your own, or was that sort of like your parents coming and helping you do that, or was that just you sort of having that? Where's that motivation come back from? Is it just finding your love again, playing with your mates?
Yeah, I'd say that. To be fair, no, it wasn't my parents. Like, no one really put any pressure on me to want to do that. I think I kind of just said like I want to take it seriously again. Like my head's like in a better place. Like I'm motivated to kind of, this is what I want to do, sort of thing. So yeah, I'd say, do you know what? The time out was good because I managed to enjoy it with my friends when I was younger. But then it got to a stage where it probably also made me realize like, okay, like I'm still feel like I've got a lot to offer going forward, and I still think that this is something I would want to do because obviously I'm serious, and then people around me not so much. So I'm like, okay, there's a difference there. So I think that was it. It was off my own accord. I was sending these emails myself. So it was all me.
And then what's the trial like when you go in? Were you nervous or confident when you go in and you finally get allowed to go into Oxford?
Do you know, it's actually so funny because I wasn't nervous at all, and I think it's because I'd been out of the like professional environment and the ages that I was like between so my teenage kind of years.
Yeah.
I think like I just didn't even think anything of it anymore. Like I was like, oh, I'll turn up, like go score a few and then see what happens. Like I honestly, I didn't think anything. Not even in like in a like an arrogant way. It was more in a way that like I'd been out of the environment, so I kind of didn't come back to me how like things really were and how important like things were. So I think it kind of took the edge off, which was good. So when I went on trial, I managed to do like well straight away. I mean, they offered me, I got a 6-week trial, and I think they signed me up within 2 weeks. So like, it all happened pretty fast. And I think, so that was to the under. That was to the under 16s because I've come late. Obviously, they're deciding the scholars that year.
Yeah.
So they've signed me up, give me all the kit because I had no kit at this point. So they give me the kit after 2 weeks, and then I guess that was more of an indication of what was going to happen being a scholar, because I don't know if they would assign me if they didn't see me being able to kind of do that. So I think that was it. The scholars came a bit later, which was good.
On reflection, looking back at that sort of that hiatus you took 2 years, what do you think sort of the impact has been of that in terms of your development? Because obviously the mental side of it has been great in terms of you fell out of love with football, you regained that, and you came back and managed to get a scholarship. But is there sort of that period where you lost out on the development years within that time? Do you think you would be a better player now if you'd have stayed within the system, or do you think it ultimately has sort of benefited you through having that break?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you could look at it like that. I mean, I'm not sure it's made too much of an impact. And this is what I say because I'm at the ages where you're going through a lot of like physical change. You're going through there's a lot of change going on. So I think it's hard to kind of know until around sort of the age of 16 kind of upwards anyway. So I feel like there may have been some aspects where, do you know what, if I was in an environment like Reading's, I would have it would have improved me, obviously. But at the same time, I think there's, that I take more from the fact that it gave me motivation to come back and play rather than the technical side of the game. So I think, if I was always doing quite well there, so it was never a lack of kind of ability. It was more just I'd kind of like lost the love for it, but I managed to, get it back and more. And I think that's helped me way more than the 2 years that I probably missed out on.
And do you think there's anything that you change about like the system now? Like to say, like, is anything you taught to and want to change to make sure that no one sort of has what you went through in terms of losing that sort of love for it as a 14-year-old? Do you think there's something like, is there anything that you'd say to like a 13-year-old academy player now?
I'd think I would say just make sure you find ways to enjoy it. And I think football these days, there's, especially at academies, like there's a lot of money into it now. You see that probably more than when even we was younger and we was at like a good academy. So I feel like you just have to find the enjoyment in it and not. I won't not say don't take it serious in the sense of, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But there is like more to life. There is like you want to still find time for other things, and you shouldn't let it bog you down at that age when it's not actually a career or a job. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, just make sure you find the enjoyment in it. Like, that's the most important thing when you're younger, I think. Like, you have to love football and want to do it all the time. Because if you don't, then obviously that's career you're going into. And then, you don't want to be doing something that you don't enjoy. So I think that's important.
In that, sorry to sort of keep on going into it, but sort of that 2 year break, in the back of your mind, did you always have it that you still had the dream of being a footballer, and that then when you found the love for it again, it was like, okay, this is still possible, or did it completely sort of evaporate?
Now, I wouldn't say it evaporated because obviously I've left and I'm still playing. So that
Yeah.
obviously, it's not like I went left and said, "Oh, I'm not playing anymore. Like, I'm done playing." I still did play. It wasn't at this. It probably wasn't at like a professional. Well, definitely wasn't professional. It was just down the park. But obviously, I think it was still in the back of my head. Like, I feel like I'm good, so I feel like there's a chance. I mean, I think it took a lot of the seriousness out of it, but I still think there was always part of me that was like, nah, this is what I want to do. So I think I managed to keep that part for sure.
And then moving on to Oxford, and you got offered a scholar after. So when did you join as an under-16, and then when did you sort of get offered your scholar?
So I joined in the under-16s. I think it was around like September, August time, and then they gave the scholars. I've been after Christmas or before Christmas. I think maybe before Christmas. So it was only a few months that I was actually there. Yeah, it was a pretty quick process.
And then obviously we've talked to previous guests. They've talked about the pressures of competing against your mates for that scholarship. Did you find that, or do you think that your 2 years outside of football just made you sort of so much more confident in yourself and sort of not really overthinking everything or putting that pressure on yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I don't think I had pressure on myself in that situation because I was there at such a short period of time. It was sort of like I've arrived late, so let's see kind of what happens. I'm quite like a laid back person
Yeah,
anyway, so I think I had the impression like, do you know what, like I'm gonna just give it a go and see where it can go. I think other people and that I could tell who had been there for a few years definitely felt the pressure and it probably affected them later down the line. But I think
yeah,
because I came late and it was kind of sort of like a free hit, like
yeah,
I've come late, like I haven't been here, so if they offer me that's great. So I think that definitely probably helped my performance as well because I'm probably better when I'm not thinking so much.
yeah.
So when I kind of take things in their stride, I've realised that I play a lot better, and that probably showed it even at a young age of like 16. So
And then what going into Oxford? Then what was Oxford like compared to Reading in terms of you now sort of put your full time as a scholar? Was it
yeah,
something were you expecting it, or in terms of like the professional nature of it compared to Reading? How did you find it?
definitely I was shocked, and I think
Right.
I was shocked because when you go into like a full time environment and
Yeah,
plus the time I'd had out, I think that definitely shocked me. Like, I mean, I remember having a few kind of not issues, but like I was young and I was maybe like I was I was a bit laid back, and I think I wasn't sure how much they really liked that at first. When they got to know me and stuff, they actually realized that I wasn't too bad. But I think that was definitely a shock. Just how everything was kind of timings, like intensity of training. Even at that age, I remember even the first pre-season I had when I was like first year scholar. I was like, I ain't done this anything like this in
Yeah.
ages. That really did shock me. So all that side of it, the professional nature of just everything, like gym, like looking like the part and all that.
yeah.
Like at first, that did take me by surprise, but yeah, it was good. I think it was a good experience, for me to have. It was it was tough. It was quite old school. Like when I was even like when I was there, even though it's not that long ago, but it was quite old school the way they went about things. Like in my first year, scholar especially. So doing all the jobs and that, like we used to do all the jobs and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it was definitely good, and it definitely helped me a lot, especially that first year. That was definitely like a big shock for me.
So what kind of sort of on the playing side, how are they sort of developing your game during that sort of first year? What are they really looking at to improve?
I think with me, they always had. So I played as like an out and out winger, number 10 when I was kind of around that age. Sometimes I played up front. I was a proper attacker. There was parts of the game, like tactical side of the game, that obviously I'd maybe have missed out on in previous years. But as you get older, it changes anyway. So I think I needed that side to improve. Like I was quite good, like on the ball. I'd like kind of come alive, sort of thing. But then off the ball, they say I was like they could deal with me off the ball. Yeah, they did run back. I just used to just attack that. And I remember when my manager said something to me at the time, saying like, in my first year, because I did find it really difficult in my first year scholar, like really difficult. I wasn't one of those that was, flying from minute one. I was like integrated in, and as time went on, I kind of got a lot better. But I remember even having a conversation, and he said to me something like, "You frustrate me so much because when I start you at the moment, it's like there's parts of the game that I don't think you want to do and stuff. But then I'll put you on the bench and you come on, you score 2. So then I have to play you. But then when I play from the start, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I had quite a tough time in my first year. I done fairly well as time went on, but I think they wanted me to improve like that side. It's all aspects, to be fair. Like when you're that age, they want you to just become more of like a all-round player. But I think my second year is where that's when I really started to kind of push on. I'd had some conversations at the end of my first year, and I think they said to me like, "Look, listen, you have all the like attributes to be like our best youth player next year, if you like want to," sort of thing. So over the summer and that was definitely thought about that, and I think that's when I started to kind of kick on a lot more in my second year for sure.
I'm guessing that really motivated you in terms of then taking that into your summer break and really putting the work in, fitness and sort of physical levels.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's good. It's good. It was good. To hear that at the time, and it was more a conversation of kind of like if you kind of get your mind onto that, then you'll be one of our better players. And I think, as I said again, I think maybe the pressures of everything and being in that new environment probably got to me more than I thought they would, because it was more of a surprise to me. But it was definitely good to hear that, and I think that did help. And I think definitely in that second year, that's when I started to really become more like a standout in the youth system.
Just going back, you were obviously a centre back and sort of full back at Reading, and then you've taken 2 years out and you've come back as a winger and a striker. Is that just Sunday League? No one wants to be a full back at playing Sunday League, do they? Do you think that sort of you're an attacking fullback now as well, and you're an attacker there? Do you think that 2 years just changed you as a player as well?
I mean, do you know what? I don't know if you remember, but when I was because I was a centre back fullback, and then they started to move me a bit higher. I don't know if you was there then. But I started playing like a more like midfieldish role.
Yeah, I think I played midfield
But then,
a couple of times.
yeah. So they started to do that, and then I think because I don't know if you remember, but I used to be massive, and then I weren't.
Yeah.
And then I used to be rapid, and then I weren't. Because obviously everyone was all shooting up and like developing and that, and it took me a bit longer, so I lost all my pace, and I was tiny, so that didn't help. I don't think they wanted me at centre back anymore after that. But yeah, nah. I think I gradually moved up a bit, and then when it was just playing with my mates, and I just thought I'll just go up front, sort of thing. So
That's what I thought would be the
yeah,
case.
but
And then you've sort of now
that's
done the reverse ever since, and you've sort of now moved back down the pitch again. Whose sort of idea was that, and where did that sort of come about?
So when I was at Oxford, like in my second year, we played like a 3-5-2 system for a while, and then like a 4-3-3 like in the second half. But the first half I played the wing back because of like the system, and like I've done really well there. So I think their idea was, honestly, I think their idea was for me to like want to like probably run more because in my first year I didn't want to get back. So I think it stuck me out there to see if it would make me do it more. And like I took to it really well. So that's when they started to move me back. And then as I got a bit older, the first team obviously didn't play with wing backs at that time, and their wingers played like quite inverted. So obviously me, the player I was quite like more of a natural winger, and I think it probably suited fullbacks in that system more. So I was playing on the wing throughout my scholarships, and then when I signed my first year pro, I think they started to play me right back a bit because of the system more than the player I was. So that's when it started to happen. Like kind of after I got off of my first year, my first pro. So I think it was more like a numbers thing as well in the first team. You know, you go up and there's so many wingers. There wasn't many fullbacks at the time. So then I'm the young lad to stick me at fullback. And then I started to just play there a bit more. So that's when they started to send me back. So clearly weren't having me up there.
You said you sort of came to like the realization you got to maybe work a bit harder and take it a bit more seriously. And sort of, was there certain sort of little messages or certain person that sort of really made that clear to you?
Do you know what? I think it was a lot of things. I mean, I'd always kind of been said similar things when I was at Oxford when I was young, but you know, I had a good youth team coach, Leon Blackmore Such. So I think, you know, he helped me a lot in terms of like development as a player, like understanding the game, and like different sides of it. Like I would say from young, he helped me the most. I would say probably at Oxford United. I had another good coach, Chris Hackett. I think he still works there. You know, they were really good with me, and you know they like got onto me, especially Leon. He did get onto me a lot, but it was all like when I look back, it was all in a way of like I want you to be good. So you know, I do appreciate that, and that definitely helped me a lot.
So I always feel like if they're getting onto you, you sort of have that feeling that they think you're good. They're not just gonna be harsh on you and be, you know, make you work hard if they don't think you haven't got that potential. It's not really worth it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think just funny because a manager, manager last season said, he said if I stop being on at you, that means like I think you've hit your ceiling. But if I am, it means like it's because I see more and I want more and I want to keep getting more. It's like the day I stop is the day like you should be worried sort of thing. So I definitely agree. Like, you know, at the time you can be like, come on, mate, like give it a rest. But you know, in the long run, you know, if you can see the good in it and that they are trying to get the best out of you, it definitely helps.
And then you talked about Oxford too. It was quite old school because the players that we've talked to be fair, have said that it's kind of like they've had different experiences in terms of they get given things to them on a plate and stuff, and they've not really, like we had a lad at Fulham, obviously Adam at Brighton, said that they were sort of treated really, really well. Your experience was obviously quite different. Do you want to just like touch on that in a bit more detail?
No, definitely, it wasn't that environment. It was, you know, it was there was like a humbleness, like a really proper like work ethic, and we had to do, like when you do all the jobs and stuff, and we're doing all them things around the training ground and helping the first team and stuff. Like it was really like that, especially my first year. But so nothing was really like just given on a plate. I'd have be some long days and stuff. So I think at the time you moan, but I think honestly, I actually do think it helps you so much. So I wouldn't even now look at it in a way like, oh, I wouldn't have wanted it the other way, because I think it makes you appreciate when you're in a position, as in you're playing, in the first team, and you're actually, you've been playing football for a few years. You appreciate the position more, and I think you'll also be more receptive to young lads and stuff, because I always try and chat to them and stuff, because I knew, how it can be when it's not like that, or when it's people are a bit more tougher on you. So I think it's not like it as much nowadays as kind of time's gone on. But I feel like, when you kind of come from a place where you have to kind of earn like everything, and sometimes it can feel like it's a bit much, and sometimes maybe it was a bit much like back then. But I look at it in a way, and I think people that played with me will look at it in a way like it was good character building, and it definitely, I can't say it didn't help.
Did you have any players within your team that really didn't enjoy that part of it, sort of the jobs and all the rest of it, and sort of did they then sort of fall out of the team dynamic? Was there any sort of players who just didn't take to it at all, and ultimately sort of, I don't know, fell out of the team as a result? Because I'm interested in how that plays a part with like the group dynamics. Like I can imagine that builds sort of a togetherness, but also I can imagine some
Yeah,
players
no,
who
definitely.
everything on a plate might completely fall out with the group as a result.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't take to it well, so I was one of them at first.
Right.
And definitely, when you first come, uh, I did take to it well, but I think because there ends up being kind of like an understanding, like, and everyone's in it together, so it does actually bring people together. So it can, like, everyone's not just going to be loving doing things around the training ground, and
Yeah.
I definitely didn't. But at the same time, like, when I look back, it was like we made like a proper good laugh out of it, and it really like brought people close, because everyone's doing things they don't necessarily want to do. And like, I remember we'd look for like footballs like that would be in the trees and that, like, after training and stuff, and we'd have to go retrieve them and that, like if when it was in the bushes and that. So it was, when I look back at it, like we'd moan, and I'd probably had like good memories doing that with people. So yeah, I definitely think it brought the team together, and I think that's why at the time I wasn't having it at all. But I look back and I think, what, like that was there were some good times, like, regardless. So I think it's a good thing. But yeah, not everyone took well to it. Me being one of them.
And then carrying on with your career, you obviously then got a pro, and then how many first team opportunities and sort of being in and around the first team environment you had before, and then you obviously went on loan. What was the sort of, how did you progress?
So yeah, we kind of, the year I signed the pro was like they just started like a 23s, which they never had before. So there was, I was playing with them even from my second year school. I played with them regularly. Uh, I got the pro early into my second year, so earlier than a few of the other boys. But yeah, I had my opportunities. Also, I didn't have many in the first team as such. I mean, I made my debut in maybe my second year. I was on the bench a few times in the league. I never made a league appearance. Um, Played in the Carabao Cup a couple of times as well. But with me, there was always a sense of, I always had like a real urge to play. So even from, from the start, I really wanted to play, whether that be at Oxford or on loan. So I a lot of players kind of don't push alone. I have always been one, has been like, I need to be playing to like keep me like fully motivated and fully like on this. And I found, being a 23 young lad, not on loan and not in the squad, that was the hardest time when I first signed that I've probably had, because the not playing part and just training and small group training and like kind of how like it can be at times, like as you get older, like not being in the squad, training with groups, 23s games, that wasn't kind of enough for me from a young age. So I like pushed the loan. So I ended up going on loan to Oxford City in the COVID season. I think that was in my first year pro. And like I love playing on loan there, and like just playing for 3 points and like a few fans and stuff. And obviously there weren't many, but playing in that where it kind of meant something, that is what fueled me, sort of thing. So the 23s friendlies and things like that didn't really get enough out of me. I needed to be playing for something more important. So I went on a couple of loans. So I went to Oxford City. COVID happened. Season was kind of scrapped, and then I'd come back in my second year in my pro, so I got it extended, probably based off of that loan. So it was a similar story. It came in, did quite well, made a couple of appearances, and then started to like find myself not in the squad and stuff, and back with the 23s. And I was one of the older 23s at this point, because a lot of people were gone after the first year. So I was like, I need to be playing. Like I literally need to be playing. So I used to push that like a lot, probably more than anyone normally would. I was really determined to go out and play and like prove myself at like men's level from like an early age.
And then, do you have an agent at this point? When did you start? Did you ever have an agent? Sort of what influence does he have on you, or on what sort of, how much does that come from you or your agent as well, if you have one?
I did have an agent at that point, yeah. It's kind of when I signed my first deal. Had an influence to a degree. I think like I pushed it a lot onto him and to the club. So I would be saying, I need games, I need to be playing, like sort of thing. Like, and I'm not coming in kicking up a fuss. I'm not playing for Oxford United's first team because I'm young and like haven't really proved myself to a degree. So I wasn't kicking up a fuss about that. I was more saying that I needed to go play. I wanted the minutes, the experience in men's football, because I realised, especially after my first loan, how different it was. So even in the second year, I was probably even more kind of determined to go out and play. And that's when I went to Woking after and spent the most part of the season there. So it was more me rather than anything else.
And then what's it sort of like going into that men's dressing room environment, having been in academy football? Was it a shock to sort of the existing players take to you well, or sort of what was your experience first going into that dressing room?
Do you know what? I didn't mind it. I thought I quite liked it, to be fair. I think it helps. I remember when I played for Oxford City, my first game, I had a great game. So that helped instantly. I think I trained once and we played on the Saturday, and I think, honestly, I scored one, which was a worldie. Weren't even on camera, which I was fuming about afterwards. And then I think I won a penalty, a set up too. And we won 6-2. It was like crazy. And I'm going in thinking, yeah, this is like this is easy. obviously you realise not every game is gonna be like that, and I don't think I had many like that. But that helped doing well, like when I first come in. But yeah, like I always kind of take a while to be in kind of new dressing rooms. Like I seem to get along with a lot of people, so yeah, I think the Oxford City one was good, and the Woking one was good as well. And I got some friends there that I'm still in touch with. So yeah, I think it helps when you do well.
And you made your name a lot at Woking, obviously you then signed them permanently. What was it about Woking, sort of, you made your home, you played, your first real run of games at a good level as well?
Do you know what? I think so. When I went there on loan first, and I really struggled on loan first, and it was so funny because they nearly sent me back like early, because I remember my first game terrible, second game terrible, and then I remember them coming to me and said, my managers at Oxford said to me, one of the youth team manager said, like, you need to turn up this weekend because they're talking about sending you back. I was like, oh God, like, honestly, like, so I didn't have a great start there. Like, I'll be very honest. People was probably thinking who we brought in, but yeah, I managed to kind of steady the ship, and then the manager there, Alan Dowson, like, I have a good relationship with him still, and he kind of gave me that season. It was a difficult season because of COVID and stuff, but managed to play literally nearly every game from when I came in. So I think I ended with about over 40. So that was, that definitely helped me. And then I think it led into the summer. Hadn't been in at Oxford United because of COVID, etc. And then basically kind of, they'd offered me a new deal. And then I've kind of, expressed that I wanted to go and play regularly in a first team. As I said before, like, that was a motivating factor for me, and I didn't really see my chances there as much at the time. So, I had conversations, and then I ended up. This manager had already played me for the season. He really liked me, wanted me to come in. So that's what I ended up doing, and that's when I signed on a permanent basis because, he could, from what they was kind of offering and stuff.
And is that chat with the Oxford first team manager at the time, or was it with the youth coach when you have those conversations back at Oxford?
Oh no, that was with the manager. Yeah, that was the manager. I just kind of said, like, it probably took a lot for me to kind of say it, but I kind of said, I haven't been here. I felt like I wanted to kind of kick on and make like my own kind of name for myself, and I played first team football for a season in the National League, so I kind of wanted to carry that on. And it wasn't an easy conversation. I don't think they ever are, but that's something that I was passionate about, and I was determined to kind of prove myself, because I felt like I needed more kind of opportunity. And what football's like. I didn't have many opportunities at Oxford, but that's just how football is. But I wanted to kind of go on my own path, so that's what ended up happening.
Sort of the biggest changes in terms of playing men's football in regards to sort of that lower league, especially playing fullback when you've got sort of a lot of crosses coming in, sort of tall forwards. Was it the speed of the game, or was it more the physicality that sort of does it? When you said you struggled in the first game, in the first 2 games at Woking, what was it?
Physicality, definitely. I think everything, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I wasn't playing regularly at Oxford United, so I came in straight away. I started my first game. I remember we played Boreham Wood away. Obviously, I didn't know much about the team, etc. And I just remember playing on the wing, and I remember trying to, like, one of the first kind of instances, I've tried to run down the line, like, to make a running behind, and the guy had just put one of them right here, and I nearly fell off the pitch. And I was like, Jesus, like, I couldn't believe it. And I feel like every time I got it, someone was on me, on the back of me, like, and I honestly, I was really shocked, and the physicality part definitely took me by, like, a real surprise of the National League, especially because I played in the South, but the National League was a step up from that. So yeah, that part, I didn't get a sniff in that game, and I probably didn't get a sniff for a couple games, to be honest. And then, to be fair, I'd moved I started off playing there right mid, and then they put me fullback, and I was probably better because the game was kind of more in front of me, and there wasn't someone right up me, like, as soon as I would touch the ball. So I think, that part obviously took some adjusting to. But over times and over games, and obviously I had a manager at the time that played me consistently, like, allowed me to make mistakes and still played me and stuff, and that was obviously so important in helping me. So I think that season, like, I improved a lot from good and bad experiences, like, on the pitch. So yeah.
And then, so you said your first 2 games didn't play well, and then the Oxford coaches said you might be sent back. What are you doing in the third game? Are you like to try and like settle yourself? What did you do in that one?
Do you know what? I think it's so funny because I didn't even take. I think it took the edge off of it because it was sort of like, again, I'd come in, had a few games, I was thinking so much, and then it comes to it, and they're like, well, if you don't do well today, then you're going back. And I didn't think of it as like, oh, well, you know what, I've got to be amazing today. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go out and I need to just relax and do my normal thing because I'm trying too much. I'm trying to make up for mistakes and that. Like, if they happen, they happen. Like, just move on. And I think in that game, I played a lot freer and I played a lot better. So I think that was it. I think for me, it's being in like a good mental space, a good, like, not thinking too much and going from there.
And carrying on with Woking, he then obviously had a really successful season last year. You got into the playoffs and were pushing for promotion for a lot of the season. What was it like? Sort of this. What do you think that success was down to, and what do you think the successful teams that you've been part of? What do you think is key with that?
Yeah, I'd say so. Obviously, we had at this point Alan Dowson had gone, and that was the second half of the first year. I got injured as well, so I missed the remainder of that season. So I've come back in pre-season. The new managers came in, and I've been out. So then when it come back to the pre-season, I was back. And yeah, I think one thing I'd say is that we had a real kind of identity and a real way of playing, and I think a lot of people bought into that. I think that is probably what I've realised such an important thing. People buying into the play style and what the manager wants, and I think that was important at Woking. I think that's why the team done so well because of that. I'd say, yeah, just there was a real identity to our team. We was like high pressing, aggressive team, and you know, everyone bought into it, and the results followed. So I think that is probably what I'd say I've realised is an important thing. Like, as a whole group, everyone buying into the way that the manager kind of wants things done.
Yeah, and Joel just reminded me, obviously, Woking striker Podrick Amond is a Newport County legend. Don't know if you're sort of aware.
Yeah.
He scored some very important goals for us. Is there anything you could tell us about him at all?
Yeah, Podge was like a real leader, like, in that dressing room. I mean, his performances were always good. He was, worked so hard as well for the team. So I think, I think a real good character and person to have in the dressing room, and also a very good player. I mean, he had great quality, so that definitely helped. And I think as it was a good mix. We had a good mix of kind of experience and youth in that team as well. So I was one of the younger players. James Daly was one of the younger players, but then we had Podrick Hammond, Scott Cuthbert, and a few others rowing in. So there was a good kind of balance in that team. So I feel like good player and good person to have in the dressing room.
I'm also a Luton fan as well, if you don't know. And you was
obviously I do
remember. Obviously, how important is it as a fullback to have like a dominant centre back, experienced centre back next to you? And obviously, Scott Cuthbert, Luke Wilkinson was there as well. What do you think? Is that really, really important as a fullback, or do you sort of give you more license to go forward?
Do you know what? So this is the thing at Woking. So I was playing fullback for a year, come back, and then I played on the wing. So I came in from that pre-season, so I played on the wing that year, and I played in a lot of various different positions as well. So they kind of moved me from there. So I had the two on my back, but I was actually playing on the right mid.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, obviously, I can say that I know that is important. That them lads were great. So I think, that is massively important.
I was going to touch on you got injured and you're out for, was it like a half a season or so?
Yeah.
What's it like being injured? Like you were at Woking full time, or were you still at Oxford on loan?
No, that was when I was there full time. I'd signed on a permanent.
So what's sort of your sort of everyday life as an injured player at Woking, and sort of your thoughts? What is it like there?
Definitely much more difficult at like a non-league level, and you notice the difference in terms of facilities, and probably why it took me longer to get back. I'd say, it was I would go in, like, I didn't like being injured at all. We had it was a bad situation in terms of I'd had an injury, so I'd tore a tore my MCL. So, but the manager had just been sacked. All the staff had left as well with the manager. So it was a real difficult situation in terms of me being injured, not even knowing what I'd done at this point. And then the Monday, everyone's gone except for one person. So we had physio come in, and the physio who come in, Adam Woodrow, helped me massively, got me on a good rehab plan, and the sports scientist James Clark as well, who was working at Woking. They both tried really hard and managed to help me a lot, because obviously the situation wasn't great in terms of there was no one really there from a medical department until Adam kind of come in, and he was definitely really good, and had managed to get a good rehab in. And the manager was good with me as well, because to be fair, there was no rush. He said, what, I don't want you to come back for the rest of the season. We're mid-table sort of thing. We're not going up or down. Don't rush it. Make sure you're ready for next one. So that was good as well. And it was good to have a manager who kind of said that to me. But yeah, it was tough, and it can be pretty isolated, especially as well when the facilities aren't as good. I think when you're higher up, you probably take that for granted, but there's a lot less in non-league, etc. So yeah, it was really tough, but I managed to come out the other side, and yeah, been all good since.
And then to touch on the playoffs, what was your experience in playoffs? Obviously defeated, lost to Bromley, but were one of the best teams all season. What was the playoffs like?
Yeah, it's funny, because it's that was my first experience playing in a playoff game, and it's just crazy how you do so much for the season, and then it's one game, well, that's it. And it's such a weird feeling. It's so disappointing, but it's also, you should be proud of what you've done and achieved, because I think it's the best that Woking ever finished in the league. But it's just hard to be like that, because it was one game, and everything. We finished the season one week. The next week was a Tuesday. First round, bang, we're out, and that could be the last time we see a lot of the players as well. So it was a real weird feeling, and I hadn't had a kind of feeling like that. But yeah, it was tough, but that's the playoffs. I've realised that it was fast paced. There was big stakes obviously on the line. So yeah, it was a good experience to have. No
Just
problem.
going to touch on that game in particular. The build up and everything, and then the actual game itself. Do you think that's probably pressure wise, but also atmosphere wise, the biggest game you've been involved in as of yet?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot on the line, and everyone's kind of confident going in. And I think Bromley were in great form, going into it. So everyone's going to be full of confidence, and it was a high pressure and stake game. So it was good to experience that. I think in that second season at Woking, I think for me it was a difficult year for me, because I feel like I started really well, and then I had a couple of injuries, and I remember I got sent off straight red, and then I ended up missing a month, because that's when the Queen passed away. The games were off, so I missed it. So I missed a month from a red card. I came back, got a concussion, came back, had a little ligament injury. So I had loads of little kind of 3 weekers and 4 weekers kind of throughout the first half of the season, which I think I struggled with. So I think second half it was we kind of changed the shape that we played, and I actually found that season probably the most challenging one that I've had on an individual basis. Even though the team did so well, personally, I think that's probably one of the most difficult seasons I've had. So it was funny kind of going into the playoffs because I came on from the bench as well in that game early because we had an injury. So yeah, it was very different, but obviously it was a high pressure game and it was good to experience despite the result.
So you deserve a red card when you did get sent off. I've never seen it, but you haven't had many. So what was that like?
Oh no, it was a red. But do you know what? It's funny because I remember being fuming, thinking it weren't, and then I watched it back, and then I was like, okay, then yeah, maybe. I'd taken a loose touch. I tried to recover it, and I've gone in studs up. Yeah, nowadays it's a red. It wouldn't have been back in the day, but nowadays it is a red. I'll accept it. It was a red. That's the only one I've had.
You said you had a disappointing, sort of a tough season personally, but then you've managed to then obviously get you moved to Barnsley. Sort of, how did that come about? And was it a no-brainer completely?
Yeah, I think it was. So I'd obviously had a good start, and the year before until my injury as well. I'd played well. I managed to get Young Player of the Year that season, until I was out. But yeah, I'd had kind of a bit of interest from. I'd heard that there was interest kind of going into the January originally, and then kind of went quiet kind of after that for a period. So yeah, it was quite a difficult even off season. I mean, going into that, I mean, I signed really late at Barnsley, so there was a period where I wasn't signing a deal at Woking, so I was kind of doing my own training bits for the majority of that whole summer. So yeah, it was difficult, and then obviously I'd heard they kind of came back in with the interest again. And yeah, and then from then it was a complete no-brainer because I had other bits, but kind of things had fallen through, and I think I was kind of coming to the end where I was at a point I wasn't worried, but I was like, this is dragging out a bit. You have the summer, and then you see people going back, and then you're still not sorted, and then you're thinking, okay, keep ringing the agent, anything coming. And then things kind of happen really last minute football. So I'd say that this summer just gone was definitely a completely new experience where I've found myself not knowing kind of what I'm doing, and for some reason or another, things just weren't coming to me at the time that you'd ideally want, which would be you go back before pre-season, you sort it. You realise in football that's definitely not always the case, and being in the position, yeah, it was tough. I found it really tough, but I managed to work out in the end, and yeah, I was delighted when it went through.
And was for the plan always to be that you go out on loan once you'd signed for Barnsley, or?
Yeah, I obviously because as well I came so late. Just before the season started, so that was kind of always a plan that they kind of had. So yeah, obviously played in a few of the cup games, playing the Carabao Cup, the trophy, come on in the league, and then I was on the bench a few times. So yeah, it was definitely that was kind of the plan, and then that's what's ended up happening in September, which is when I went to Gateshead.
Obviously, we'll just touch when you're still at Woking. What's it like as a player? You might have had it, obviously, when you was at Woking. You said in January there was interest. What's it like playing whilst there's sort of higher clubs interested in you, and you see all these rumours online and stuff? What's it like? Do you follow that? The social media to see or do you know it from your agent, or do you follow it and you keep aware of it, or do you just solely focus on the club you're at whilst you're in the season?
I think like obviously you things on social media and stuff. You try and look like not look at, but obviously sometimes you can't help but see certain things. I try and kind of keep it to the back of my mind, but I did know about this, and do you know what? To be honest, I look back and I think it did maybe affect me because I think I knew that I had this kind of bit of interest, but I'd had a bit of stop start. Like I'd done well in periods, like kind of obviously so that it was noticed. But then it was like because I kept missing like a couple games, and it happened a few times. I think when I come back, I was trying really hard because I was like, no, I need to be back at like full tilt. Like I need to be performing like one of the best. So maybe that I would say that probably maybe did affect me. And I think even at the time, a manager said something like that to me. Like I feel like you're trying like too kind of much, which I think that didn't help. But yeah, it was difficult. And then second half of the season, obviously we changed the shape and that. I was playing kind of out of position to what I normally would have. So I think that is probably what added to me feeling like added pressure because I'd obviously heard this and then maybe wasn't playing as well for the second part of the season as well. I think there's other factors that were involved in that, but obviously you can kind of bog you down a bit.
So sort of looking forward now, obviously you've recently had the move to MK, and sort of what are your, ambitions and goals over sort of the next 5 years? What are you looking to sort of achieve within the game?
I think, I don't actually really kind of have a set goal because I feel like if you look at footballing journeys, you see how they can just vary so much, and I don't think that to a certain extent I don't know if there's like a limit. I just want to I'd say take it in my stride and try and perform as well as I can. I just had a successful period like at Gateshead. I loved it there as well. All the people in that brilliant. Like honestly, like that club will always mean a lot for me. Kind of what they've done for me and kind of getting me playing like my best football that I've played in a while. So I think just going to MK, looking to just carry on momentum and progressing from there. And you know what, like I feel like if you're doing the right things and your head's in a good space, like kind of sky's sort of the limit sort of thing. So I don't necessarily have goals that I will be like, I need to be at this point. I think, things happen for a reason and, just keep trying to do the right things and do as well as I can.
And then you've obviously moved with Mike Williamson. What is it you think because he's doing really well at MK, they're just outside the playoffs now. He did really well at Gateshead. What's it about him as a manager, a young manager, like a lot of the current ones that are doing well? What do you think so special about him?
I think the when I went to Gateshead, I think the style of play that they play, I think honestly, I think it really does complement my game well. I think as a manager, I think he's great. He's easy to talk to. He's quite like a laid back character, which is similar to myself. So I think like that helps as well. I think it's good to have a good relationship with a manager and staff, and I think I think that it's important to have a manager whose ideas that you can really kind of get behind. And I feel like that is the way I think we see the game similarly and kind of how it should be played. So I think that's really important. And then obviously, the way I managed to play at Gateshead was ultimately a lot down to obviously partly myself, but obviously I think it was also a lot down to the system and how they wanted me to play. And I think it got the best out of me. So I'm hoping that can carry kind of that on.
Yeah, well,
no, I think we'll move on to quick fire.
We'll just finish off with some quick fire questions. So, Lou Jones.
Yeah.
I think I'll be honest.
Favorite boots?
Mercurials.
Classic winger kind of boots, aren't they?
Classic, yeah, they are classic. Boring.
The best player that you've played with?
So I played with.
Podge.
I remember when I was at Oxford United, I was Shandon Baptist, the one who's at Brentford now.
Oh yeah,
It was quality, very very good.
Played against?
Toughest player you played against?
Played against. I remember one pre-season played against Defoe when he was at Rangers.
Oh.
Yeah, he was
At
decent.
Ibrox.
Yeah, Ibrox. Yeah, so I was young. I remember coming on. He was sharp. He scored 2 or something like that.
The most intimidating ground that you played at? You obviously been in non-league as well, or was it? What was it?
Yeah, being intimidating. I think Wrexham had good support last year. That was a tough place to go. I'd say there. Yeah.
Funniest moment in football?
Funniest moment. That's a very hard one. I'm really not sure. I really don't know about that.
Can see a few things that sort of come into mind, but you don't want to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's some things that I don't know if they can be said, but
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. I'd really have to think about that one. That's a tough one.
I think that's it.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Kyran. That's been brilliant.
All good,
Thank
yeah.
you.